Hey, what's up, everybody? It's gonna be a second attempt at this. I already recorded this video previously, but my video recording software I was using crashed and lost the video. Unfortunately, it was a good hour-long video, but I'm gonna try to make this a little bit shorter. Mainly to give you guys a little update, what's going on, and also want to talk about scaling. Why it's important to scale your load all the time. Had a conversation come up in our company Facebook group that I thought was, yeah, it's worth talking about. First, let's give you guys an update on what's going on with me because I did not stream today. I got it running early in the day. I was heading east, had the sun in my face most of the time, and it tends to make the phone run hot. Also, it's been kind of quiet and not too much participation on the live streams lately. So I figured, I'll just take a break from it. Maybe just, people need a little break from it or bored, whatever. I know sometimes, a lot of the people who watch regularly are also on Scotty's streams, and he streams a lot of times when I am. So that's another reason why I'm kind of thinking maybe just do recordings. Not to mention the fact there sometimes I like to listen to music that I cannot play on my streams because it'll get the video blocked later on. So that's something else. I don't know. I'll still stream, just maybe not as frequently, perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. I'll be a little more selective about what times or whatever. But anyway, I'm in Gallup, New Mexico right now. As you guys might know from yesterday, I picked up a load in Tracy, California, and ran that down to my house in Victorville. Did a 10-hour break at home, and then this morning got moving around right around 4 o'clock this morning, and ran it from there to here. It's what 190 plus 360 plus 16. It's 570. No wait, 560. About 565 miles or so. So a pretty good shift, especially when 190 of it was in California. Anyway, I'm here. I made it here with only 18 minutes left on my 70-hour clock, though. That includes my post trip in there. So, yeah, and I'm here for the purpose of swapping loads with a team truck that's coming over from Brownsville, Alabama. Their load is going to California, and that's the whole intent is to get me some miles, but keep me near Cali, so I can be in a position to get home when my time off. I have an appointment coming up on Tuesday. So I need to stay in the general area. So anyway, that team is supposed to be here, well, about an hour and a half or so from now, based on how far away they were last time I got an update about them or communicated with them. 18 minutes left on my 70 though, and I only get 650 or so tonight. So I'm literally going to have a little over 7 hours left to work with after my 10-hour break. That's only going to be enough to get me to Needles, and really, I'm not really too concerned that they're taking longer to get here than they originally told me they were going to be. They originally said 17 to 1800. 1800 was a little over 2 hours ago. The last update they gave me, it sounds like they're going to be here between 2100 and 2130. Anyway, that's what's going on with me. I may or may not stream the next shift. I don't know. It's going to be in the middle of the night, so possibly not, but I don't know. Because there's always a mix of what people are looking for when they watch the streams. Some people are mainly just wanting to listen to my banter or whatever, or chit-chat with me on there. Some people might be interested in the scenery, but driving in the middle of the night, which is what most of my shift's going to be, won't be any scenery to see. So, and traditionally, there's not so much participation at night. Add in the fact that YouTube, I think, has been having issues where people don't get notified when people are streaming. I believe Scotty even was complaining about that recently, like his view count is way down because, whatever's going on with YouTube. So anyway, yeah, we'll just do the recording stuff for now. Yeah, just kind of more vlog related, and then maybe I'll uh, try to get some dash cam footage of, whatever kind of interesting things I see that might be worth you guys, that you guys might have an interest in checking out. Whether it be a moose like I saw the other day in Wyoming, or just stupid things people do, or maybe even courteous things that people do that impress me. I'm playing around with the idea of posting that kind of stuff again. Maybe doing like some compilation stuff along that line. What I've seen this week or something, who knows. Anyway, so main point I want to talk about scaling loads, and I may also talk about what to expect from trainers, or what an ideal trainer is in terms of what kind of experience they have or what they do, and basically ideology versus reality. There is a difference there, and I'm going to talk about that. Let's start with the scaling issue first, okay? Because we had a good conversation in our group today. A friend of mine, he had talked about how he picked up a load from our mothership, as we call it, our terminal in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, and he got it knowing that he was going to swap somewhere with somebody else. I'm not sure where at, but he said that he took it out of the yard and he was going to scale it, but then I guess the scale was blocked for I don't know what reason. Maybe they're doing work on it or something else. I don't know. Didn't give the detail on that. Doesn't matter. What ended up happening is he did not scale the load, though. And when he ended up getting to the swap point, actually he had to go through a state scale to get to the swap point as well. I was not quite clear on whether he actually went into the state scale and actually scaled his load going across there, or if he got a bypass signal. Either way, though, he ended up going past the state scale and ended up getting to the swap point, meeting up with the other driver. And I guess the other driver got a little bit bitchy about the fact that he did not scale the load. And I guess the guy just wouldn't talk, went in his truck and wouldn't talk to him or anything like that, and just acting like a little baby about it in general. It's not the way I would have handled it if I was the guy acquiring his load. And I have had these situations before, and that's why I want to talk about this. What you should really be doing, and what I would do if I have such a situation like that myself, where I'm acquiring the load from a guy who did not scale it. Alright, so first, there are different reasons why people don't scale loads. One might be because the build weight is not very heavy. Generally speaking, I'm no stranger to that. Usually if it's a less than 35,000 or so pound scale build weight, I tend to not scale it, to be honest with you. You really should scale it, but at 35 or less, there are little details I'm looking for, though. And no one detail can really be relied on by itself. So 3 details that I always look at. Now, one of these details you may or may not be able to rely on because you might not have this gauge in your truck, a suspension gauge, a suspension load gauge. It tells how much weight is getting pushed down onto your rear drive axles, your airbags there. Okay, so the build weight, the suspension load gauge reading, how heavy does it indicate your load? The load is on the front of your trailer or the back of your tractor, and when you actually drive the truck with the load, how does it feel like it performs? If you're a brand new driver, you're probably maybe you're not going to know so well the difference between hey, that feels like a 20,000 pound load, or no, this feels like a 30,000 pound load, or that feels like a 40,000 pound load. So a 30,000 and a 40,000 pound load might feel very similar to you if you're not really sure, if you don't have enough experience dealing with loads of each of those weights. So now, mind you, I'm talking reefer industry here because I pull reefer. So if you're pulling a flatbed trailer or drive-in and you're really light, whatever, and you have typical like maybe a 180, 200 gallon fuel tank set up on your truck, you might be able to get away with heavier weights and still be within 80,000 pound limit. All right. So anyway. The other guy, he shows up. The guy gets all butthurt. The fact that he didn't scale it and won't talk to him or whatever, not the correct way to handle that situation, in my opinion. Okay, now I say there are certain, between those three details I talked about, the suspension load gauge indication, the build weight, and how does the truck feel like it's performing? Because I can tell by the way the truck accelerates if I'm pulling a 40,000 pound plus load, or if I'm pulling a 30 to 35, or if I'm pulling a 20, or even a less than 20. I mean, if I'm pulling a 20,000 pound load, the truck will take off pretty well. I'm not going to have any problem, much trouble accelerating. But 40,000 pound load, I usually start out in second gear in my truck, and I'll notice it'll be a little bit more difficult to get moving right off the bat, and then it'll accelerate a lot more slowly too. So it's very easy for me to see. So if I see that the build weight is now, I'm going to take an example. A load I once pulled out of Laredo with Sierra England. It was a load of horse meat and horse serum. Weird load. Anyway, it was billed at 29,000 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. So I was expecting it wasn't going to feel too heavy. And also that load, I believe, was, I had a load suspension load gauge on that truck, and it was not reading that high. Yeah, and it turned out when I go to scale it, and because it was performing like a heavier load than it really was. It's like 28,000 pound load. I was like, why does it feel like it's accelerating like a 40,000 pound load? So I get over to the TA or whatever. I usually stopped at the TA there to scale my loads. And I get off this, I get through scaling it and I find out it's actually a 40,000 pound load, even though the build weight was 28, 29. So, and on top of that, it was a tail heavy load, and I had to slide the tandems back some distance, if I remember right. It's either very front heavy or very tail heavy to some extent. It's been a while though. Been a few years, so I don't recall. Whatever the case was, though, you can have two of those little telltale signs giving you clues that, hey, this maybe not a problem, but then the third indicator telling you, hey, this doesn't quite match up with what I'm seeing here on the other two. So that's one way where you can have a problem with a load, where you might make an erroneous assumption that your load is going to scale okay, and then find out the hard way that it's not actually okay. Another case in point, how long was it? Maybe a year ago, here at JCT, I picked up a load in Clearfield, Utah. I think it was Clearfield. Yeah. And it was going down to Southern California, maybe to Mira Loma or somewhere. I don't recall. It was probably Mira Loma. Costco, DC, or somewhere down that way. But, alright, this was another such case where, how heavy was the load? I think it was a 30-some-odd thousand pound load. So not overly heavy, but not overly light either. And so typically something I don't normally expect to have axle weight issues with. Definitely not normally going to have a gross weight problem with, but could have an axle weight problem with, depending on how it was loaded. Okay, well, wait. The truck felt like it was accelerating like the amount of weight I had on the BOL, and the load gauge didn't give me an indication that it was that heavy. So I just kind of made the assumption, oh, I'll probably all right. It kind of putting the pieces together, it felt like I was probably okay. But now I ended up, instead of scaling my load right there in the Salt Lake City area, um, which would have only been a shorter, like, 20, 30 mile different distance to go. I ended up waiting until I got all the way to Nephi, however you pronounce that town, which is 110 miles away from my shipper, where I was going to stop and get fuel anyway. And I figured, all right, I'll just go ahead and scale my load over to Flying J first, and then I'd go across the freeway and go get my fuel at the place over there where I like to get my fuel from. Well, I go scale the load, and then I find out I'm tail heavy. And not only was I tail heavy, I was enough tail heavy where I would have had to slide. I had to slide the tandems back to at least, I think, good 41 feet 6 inches on a load going to California. And I was going to have to go through a weigh station, or go past a weigh station that was guaranteed to be open. It's open 24/7. So there's no way I can go through there and not hit a closed weigh station. That was the only station I was concerned about, though, because there's another station at the Utah-Arizona border. Okay, well, I can have the tandems all the way back in Utah and in Arizona, so what do I care about? As long as my axle weights and gross weight are good, I don't care. Nevada, there's a CMV inspection facility just south of where the Love's truck stop in North Las Vegas is, but they're usually closed. And it's more of they don't even scale everybody going through there. It's more like they'll put portable scales there on people they question or whatnot. But okay, so now I have a problem. I got to put my tandems back good 1.5, 2 feet, whatever it was, aft of of the California limit. And California is known to, that weigh station specifically put a friend of mine out of service for being, I think, 1 foot, or was it 1.5 feet over length. Anyway, so yeah, there was no damn way I was going to go to that weigh station with an overlength, overweight kind of load. So I had to make a decision. Do I run 110 miles back to Clearfield and get reworked, and then 110 miles again to where I was already sitting, or basically 220 miles of driving at my own expense to go to rework? Or do I take an 80-mile detour out of route to avoid the Mountain Pass way station and basically work my way down to I-40 where there's no way station to deal with, and southbound Cajon Pass way station I've never seen open since they rebuilt it after the fire anyway. So I ended up choosing the latter, but normally if I would have scaled the load closer to the shipper, I would have just went ahead and gone back to the shipper and got it reworked and gotten it done the correct way. I'm not in the business of dodging way stations. If I don't, you shouldn't have something to hide out here. So anyway, those are two examples where loads that were assumed to be okay were not actually okay, or were not exactly what they seemed. Okay, so fast forward again to my buddy there. He's swapping out. The guy just gets all mad, whatever, and throws a hissy fit. Okay, I don't blame the guy for being a little annoyed, but at the same time, I swear I felt a bug on me or something. Anyway, yeah. Now, because of experiences I had with doing swaps with other drivers at Cedar England and even one here at JCT, I've learned no scale ticket, no swap. Or if you don't have a scale ticket, I'll give you my BOL after I scale your load first. But until I scale your load and verify that I can scale okay, you're not getting my BOL and you're not getting my load. That's the way it is. At a couple of times at England, two that I can remember for sure. I know there were others. These two stand out, so I'll talk about these. First one was a swap I did in Nashville at the TA. The other driver brought down a load from Illinois. Don't know if he picked it up in Belvedere or somewhere else. Somewhere in Illinois, though. Swapped in Nashville with me, and the load was going. It had a two-dropper. First drop was in Birmingham. Second drop, I think, was in Knoxville. Okay, so now I'm going to mention here that Illinois has a 42 feet 6 inch Kingpin to rear axle limit. Is it really enforced much? No. But can they ticket you or put you out of service for being out of length? Absolutely. Why put yourself at risk of needless tickets or out of service orders if you don't need to? All right, so they have that limit. Tennessee has a 41-foot Kingpin to center of axle group limit. Translation is 43-foot Kingpin to rear axle. How you know that is because center of the axle group is right halfway between the two axles on your trailer. If you have a tape measure, I highly recommend you do this and double check for yourself. This is how I know the answer to this. I took a tape measure. I wanted to know what the actual Kingpin to rear axle dimension is. Okay, measure the distance between your front axle and your rear axle on your trailer. In my case, I found it was like 46 or almost 47 inches or something along that line. Almost 4 feet, basically. Not exactly 4 feet, but not that far off. Enough to where I could say the rear axle, Kingpin to rear axle is roughly 2 feet aft, or 2 feet longer than Kingpin to center of axle group. So, so I have the 43-foot limit then basically to the rear axle. Another way you can measure that with a 53-foot trailer, instead of going from the Kingpin all the way to the axle, measure from the Kingpin to the front of the trailer. It should be about 3 feet. So 53 feet, take away 3 feet, that leaves you 50 feet left from the Kingpin to the back of the trailer. So now all you have to do is measure a little more trivial distance from the ICC bar or DOT bar, whichever term you like to use for it, to the rear axle. And that's it. So for California, for example, which has a 40-foot Kingpin to rear axle limit, you want that dimension from the ICC bar to the center of the rear axle to be at least 10 feet. No less than 10 feet. 10 feet or more is what you want. Okay, Tennessee, the limit is 43 feet or so, Kingpin to rear axle, so 50 minus 43 is 7 feet. So at least 7 feet long, no shorter, is what I wanted. And in Illinois, 42.6, that's 7.5 feet. Okay, I didn't. The other driver did not scale his load, if I recall, and I ended up doing the swap first, and then he had already taken off with my load out to wherever it was going, which I don't even remember. I go to scale his load, and I find out that it's tail heavy, and it was tail heavy enough where I had to go. I think a good foot or so past the Tennessee limit. So like 44 feet or something like that. 43 and a half, 44 feet, whatever it was over length. So I called the guy back and told him, hey, do you know that you just gave me an overweight overlength load? No, I had no idea. I was like, and I told him, Tennessee has a 43-foot Kingpin to rear axle limit, and Illinois is even more restrictive than Tennessee is. So I'm wondering how in the hell you even got out of Illinois without going back to the shipper. So you should have taken that load back to the shipper. Now I got to figure out how to get it down to Birmingham without having any issues. Alabama, I don't know, at least I did not know at the time, had any kind of axle length limit, so I'd drive in that state with the tandems all the way back if I had to. But Tennessee, I knew for sure had a limit, and I didn't want to drive in Tennessee with it like that. So now, ended up going on Trucker Path to look at where the way stations are between Nashville and Birmingham, and there was one way station in Tennessee, if I remember right, or no, I don't. If I remember right, there was, or maybe there might be one there. I can't remember. I'm never in that area, so you guys who are from the area more might know better. If there was one, though, I think Trucker Pass was showing that it was closed, if there even was one, though. So I just said to hell with it. I'm going to put my tandems right at the Tennessee limit, and then I'm going to go into Alabama as soon as I get to the rest area, which is right after you get in Alabama. I'm going to stop there, slide my tandems where I want them to be, and then finish driving down to Birmingham. Once I get to Birmingham and make the first delivery, everything on the back of the trailer comes out, and then it takes the weight off the rear axle anyway, and makes my gross weight a lot lighter. So now on the trip up to Knoxville, I'm light anyway, and can have the tandems anywhere and not have any scale weight problems. And then I can also slide the tandems forward and go back into Tennessee and not have any concerns. So that was one where I had an issue with an inherited load from a swap. Another one that happened there was a load I acquired in Hillsboro, Texas. Hillsboro is right by where the 35W and 35E meet up and become 35 again on the south side of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's on I-35, just south of where it splits into 35W and 35E. Okay, anyway, the other driver picked up his load from the Shiner Beer facility. It's like southeast of, southeast, whatever, San Antonio. And he had to drive 180 miles from there to the swap point. Now, the dispatchers told me he was at the TA. They told me to do this, meet him at the TA. So I get over there. I'm driving all over that TA parking lot. I can't find his truck. I saw a few Sierra England trucks there, but none of them were his. And I drove all over that entire lot. Every single row, looked very carefully. He was not there. So I asked dispatch, where the hell is this guy? He's not here. Oh, it says he's supposed to be there. Nope, he's not here. I told you, I'm willing to bet you he's going to be at the Loves, which is an exit south of here. So I head down to the Loves, and sure enough, there he is, parked right in front of, in one of those spots facing right at the fuel island. And I meet up with him and ask him, do you have a scale ticket? So I want to see how your weights were, especially on a liquid, any kind of a liquid load. Yeah, I'm not doing that load without scaling it first. I've done liquid loads before, whether it's water, beer, or whatever else. Guaranteed it's a heavy load. Yeah, guaranteed 40,000 pound plus load. And if that heavy, yeah, it's definitely going to get scaled by me. Okay, now the process there at the Loves, though, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. And then on top of that, first the driver I was swapping with, it was a 3-dropper going, I want to say the first drop was Lexington, Kentucky, or somewhere in the general area of there. Second drop was basically right across the freeway or whatever it was from where Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Airport is at, on the far north end of Kentucky. You got a river there that separates Cincinnati from Kentucky, and then the airport is actually on the Kentucky side that Cincinnati also uses. That's where the second drop was, and then the final drop was in Dayton, Ohio. So I get over there. And then he tells me he didn't actually scale the load yet, and that he was going to do it in the morning when he started his next shift. I'm like, are you freaking serious? You picked up a fucking beer load and drove 180 miles from the shipper to here and never bothered to scale it? What an idiot. And this is the kind of shit that goes on here with poorly trained people, and they're trained to be lazy asshole idiots or whatever. Not trained how to scale loads or at all, or trained that like it doesn't matter. Yeah, it'll matter when you get put out of service and ticketed for, your poor decision there. Or so I told the guy, all right, I'm gonna have to scale this load, but I better not be overweight. So now, but the loves there, the Catskill, like a lot of other places, is right next to the fuel island. But when you get off the Catskill, the only way to get out of the, to not block the Catskill, so you can run inside and get your ticket and do whatever else you're gonna do, is to pull out onto the main road right there that's in front of the loves, and then make another right back onto the northbound I-35 service road, and then turn back into the parking lot, and then maybe go back into the fuel island or whatever to skill it. I mean, to park and then go get your skill ticket and whatnot. So I didn't want to have to go through that bullshit. If I was going to have to go out onto the road anyway, I just decided I'm going to go over to the TA, where I would rather be, and it's a better setup, and skill it there. I get over there, turns out, yeah, this is indeed not only heavy, but it's also tail heavy. So now I have another problem, and this load is supposed to go through Tennessee. England will tell you exactly which route they want you to take. And they wanted me to take I-30 up from Dallas, up to Texarkana, and up to Little Rock, and then 40 across from there all the way into Tennessee. And then work my way up toward Lexington from there. I think basically go up 65 from Nashville, if I remember right. Something like that. I forget. I get them mixed up. Anyway, but I had to deal with Tennessee on a load that was going to have to be beyond Tennessee's limit again. So, and then I had to, it wasn't just that. I didn't just have to slide the tandems, I also had to slide my fifth wheel, which was a pain in the butt. I didn't want to slide, even though I had everything configured just right to do it without a problem. The pins were released okay, I think, but the plate wouldn't slide. And it ended up, all was said and done, I ended up having to disconnect from the trailer and then take my hammer and actually bang on whichever end of the, back and forth alternating between left and right on the front or back of the fifth wheel as whatever direction I needed it to move until I got it in the right position. Pain in the butt. And then I told them, I had to tell dispatch, hey, I need to take an alternate route because I can't take this load through Tennessee. It's too long. It's too tail heavy. And I ended up figuring out a good alternate route where I could go up through Arkansas, up I-55, and then basically work my way over onto US 62 and 60, if I remember right, work my way across that way. And that took me around Tennessee and basically just dealt with Arkansas. I can't remember if I did any Missouri, and then Kentucky going across, where I was okay there. I said, otherwise, if I can't go this way, then you can tell that guy he can take his own load back to Shiner, because I'm not doing it for him. And I want my load back otherwise. So they said, all right, yeah, you're good to go. So I ended up taking the alternate route and had no problems along the way, thankfully. But again, that was a problem with someone giving me a load that they did not scale. I had another situation here at JCT about a year and a half ago, something like that. I don't remember. It's been a while, but this time it was. Now I was in the Salt Lake City area. I think I had just emptied in Clearfield, Utah, and I got asked if I'd mind taking my empty down to Salt Lake City instead of up toward Hiram, where I was planning to go originally, or up toward Ogden to hang out. So I got asked, hey, go down to Salt Lake City. I got a driver coming in across Wyoming right now I'd like you to swap with. And we're trying to get him home home to Western Oregon so he can get to a dental or medical appointment, whatever it was. So, all right, no problem. I don't have a problem with doing that. And okay, it ended up being like a three-way swap. Okay, so he was going to come first and swap with me, take my empty, and then I was going to take his loaded to Stockton, California. And then and deliver it. And then he was going to swap again the empty that I gave him with another driver who was going to, forget that town over in Western Oregon, not far away from where he was trying to get to. And I would have gotten him home. Problem was, now, when I talked to him on the phone the night before, he said he was in Little America, Wyoming, and I can't remember where he picked the load up from. I think it was a Tyson load somewhere like Logansport, or who knows, I don't know. But he said it was heavy and that he had to move both his tandems and his fifth wheel to get it scaled right. And like, this is a California load, and you had to slide tandems at least 2 feet, I think he said. I'd be a little nervous because there's not much room to work with between the front mechanical stop and the California hull. So I had me a little bit worried that he was going to bring me a trailer that was over length. And then he shows up the following morning, and yep, sure enough, it was over length. He had the tandems at 42 feet, and I had to tell him, look, that's 2 feet beyond the California limit. I told him I'd love to be able to help you, but if I'm not gonna give you my trailer unless I scale your load first at the 40-foot mark and it's legal. Because if it's maybe 40 feet 6 inches, I'll take, but if I have to go 41 or back, I'm not taking the load. So I go on the scale with his trailer, and sure enough, it was still heavy enough that and where 42 feet really was the spot it needed to be at to be legal. So I came back and told him, sorry, man, I'd love to be able to help you out, but you're putting me at risk of getting put out of service and cited and all that for having an overlength and overweight load, and I have no choice but to take this through a weigh station that's almost guaranteed to be open over in Truckee, going up Donner Pass. I have seen that station closed before, but it's rare. Usually only closed because there are too many trucks in line trying to get into there, and that's it. Otherwise, it's normally open 24/7. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting myself put out of service for this. It's like, sorry, I can't. I'd love to help you, but I can't. And it's like, I want my empty back. So we ended up canceling that swap. And then the other guy showed up later that morning, and they asked him if he'd mind doing it. And this guy was somebody who has 30 plus years of experience, who's been with us for, I think, over a decade or something like that, if I remember right. So he had a ton of experience, and he knew ways around all of the weigh stations. So, we told him what the situation was, and he came up with a route plan on how he would get around the Truckee weigh station, and also the Sacramento weigh station, because there's one there about 5 miles east of I-80 business route, which is what he would have needed to use to get down to Highway 99 and to Stockton. And he originally agreed to do it. I mean, go ahead and take the load, and then let the other guy have the load going to Oregon, or take But after about an hour or whatever, he decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this. There's too much risk. I can't do this. I'd love to be able to help you out, but no, I can't do this. So the guy who originally was supposed to swap with me ended up having to take his own load to Stockton, and he had to dodge the Truckee weigh station to do it. He made it there to Stockton okay, but he was there late. In fact, as late as he showed up to the swap point, even if I had been able to take it right away and get it moving, I think it was still highly likely I was going to be a little late with it myself. So that didn't work out, and those are all examples of why I always say scale your load and get a scale ticket. You can use Weigh My Truck. You don't necessarily have to get a paper scale ticket. You can if you want to. Even if you're using Weigh My Truck, you can go inside after you're done, because Weigh My Truck, you'll know your weights before you're even getting off the scale. You're already paid for, you already know all your weights, and then you can just take off and leave right there on the spot if you want to. It'll email you a copy of the scale ticket to your email address, and or you can also go inside to the fuel desk and get a paper copy. Now, for me, on loads where I know I'm going to drop the load in a drop yard, I usually will always get a paper scale ticket, and then I can then when I put the bills in the bill box when I'm dropping the trailer, I can leave the scale ticket with it, so the person acquiring the load knows that, hey, this is how the weight is distributed. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty good. If it's something else, like maybe I know I'm going to swap, I won't necessarily get a paper ticket. Because if I'm going to swap and I know I'm going to meet face-to-face with the other person, no problem. I'll just go on my email and then pull up the scale ticket, the digital copy of it, and show them, hey, here's my weights right here. And we're good. All right, so those are some of the ways I deal with scaling issues. Now, like I said, I don't need to get all butthurt if someone shows up with an unscaled load. So all I do is, if I look at the BOL and then it looks kind of heavy, like say more than 35,000 pounds, and then I get hooked up to the trailer and I see that my load gauge is consistent with the heavy load, or possibly heavy load, especially. Not even necessarily that. If it's more than 35,000 pound build weight, it's guaranteed no matter what, I'm going to scale it. As soon as possible. And if it scales okay, all right, everything's hunky-dory. No need to complain about it. And then just tell them, hey, you should really do this, because if you would have given me an illegally weighed load, I would have refused to swap. Or I'll tell them, you're not getting my BOL until this scales okay. And then making sure they know that you're not going to give them a load that, unless they give you a legal load first, it'll get them in the habit as well if they're going to stick around very long at all. Fortunately, here at JCT, that's the only time I've ever had a problem with a load that I've swapped for. We have 800 or so trucks in our fleet, and we have about 550 people here who have been with the company at least a year. With JCT alone, at least a year, and quite a few more have been here 2+ years, myself included. And let's see, so that's less than half of our fleet has actually been here less than a year. Okay, and then the one load I got here that was bad, it was the driver had been with Sea England for 6 months, I think he said, and then he'd been with us for about a month or two or something like that at that point in time, and so he didn't have much experience. And from what it sounded like his trainer did a pretty decent job of trying to train him effectively, but they didn't teach him about the California 40-foot limit, because he did put effort into scaling it and getting the weights just right and all that, and he actually did try. It was a learning experience, unfortunately, and it cost him his medical appointment because he ended up having to go to Stockton instead of Oregon. Anyway, so always scale your loads and never assume that you're going to be the one delivering it, because you never know what could happen. You could get asked to swap. You could have a truck, like a mechanical breakdown, where you end up losing your load to a swap because of that. So scale your load, and then get a scale ticket, or at least put yourself in a position where you can let the person know what your weights were, even if you have to write it down on a piece of paper when you're dropping it in the bill box or something. Something along that line, right, guys? In fact, actually, a friend of mine I was just talking to this evening, he picked up a load in Aurora, Colorado, and he's taking it to Casa Grande, Arizona. And I guess he wanted to stop at the Pilot in Aurora, or Flying J, or whatever that one is there, to get both fuel and scale his load, but I guess because of construction, he couldn't get to it. So, and the next thing I know, he's already gotten past the Eisenhower Tunnel and going through Vail Pass and all that, and he hasn't scaled his load yet. I'm like, are you freaking crazy? And he's got a 41,000 pound load. He's got a dry van trailer, which is lighter than a reefer, but he also holds more fuel on his. his fuel tanks hold more fuel than mine do, and I have like 200 gallons. So, man, you're playing with fire there. I would definitely not have left the area there, because I told him there's a TA in Commerce City. There's also a TA in Wheat Ridge, which is on the west side of Denver. He passed by 2 different TAs and a Sap Brothers off the same exit as TA that all have Catskills that he could have scaled his load at. Not far off of the interstate, the same one he was off of. So, man, played with fire, dude. Hope he doesn't have a problem there. And I was kind of not. Yeah, he said that was the first time he was going. He'd actually taken 70 west of Denver too, and I was kind of surprised by that. He's been driving for 3.5 years. But yeah, and I don't think that's the route I would have personally taken to Casa Grande. I would normally from there would have taken 25 all the way down to Albuquerque, and then 40 across over to Holbrook, and then take 77. Basically 77, 277, 377, 260, and 87, all the way down into Mesa, Arizona, which over on the far east end of Phoenix, and then cut down, 587 or whatever it is, straight down into Casa Grande. So I wouldn't have even touched I-17 or, he has a lot of mountains to deal with. Some really, and Eisenhower Tunnel is like 11,000 foot elevation. Denver is at 5,280. That's why they call it the Mile High City. So he had a 6,000 foot climb to get up the top of the Rockies there, and then another steep drop down. It's got more mountains and curves and stuff. Very scenic way to go, but when you're buying your own fuel, not the ideal way to go. And not to mention, I'm not sure it's the quickest way to go anyway. Anyway, that's enough on that. So, enough ramble. I already got pretty good 46-minute, almost 47 now on the video. Hopefully it doesn't get cut off again by a crash. Then I'm waiting on this other team to show up, which will hopefully be here in the next half hour or so. It's an hour. And I figure around 2 o'clock or so in the morning, local time, I'll be able to roll again somewhere in that ballpark, and I'll only have enough time to work with to get to Needles, more than likely. Like I said, I don't remember where in California. I think they said where it was, that it was going to like Riverside or somewhere down that way, but I don't remember for sure, and I don't remember what time the delivery is. I know it's due on the 8th. That's about it though. So. Like I said, I'll get in Needles and then sit and wait on my recaps again till going into delivery day and get moving from there. All right, guys, that's all I have. I hope you got some good information out of this, if not some entertainment or whatever, listening to this vlog. So, like I say, I'm kind of iffy on whether I'll actually stream tonight or tomorrow in the morning, whatever, when I roll, because it'll be in the middle of the night. Think I'll let YouTube sort out some issues, whatever might be going on, and not to mention I get more freedom sometimes to listen to songs I can't always listen to or whatever. So, all right, but I will stream periodically. Don't think I'm gonna stop. So I will see you guys soon. Appreciate you guys hanging out and watching, and hit the like, hit thumbs up if you like this video and learn something. All right, thanks. Have a good night.